42. Adam Morgan. I'm pacing the living room back and forth, grabbing at my hair, scanning for objects that I could destroy to vent my anger. How could I not have known? How could I not have seen this sooner? "Do you know who wrote it?" Rebecca asks for the 10th time. I have a pretty good fucking idea. I want to punch something just to get some relief. "Okay, well then who is it? We just found a big clue here. This is good news." Rebecca is trying to calm me down, but it's no use. I'm seeing red. A lying bitch is messing with my life. She's trying to ruin me. She threatened me. Jesus Christ, she probably killed Kelly. For all I know, she's manipulating the evidence as we speak. Rebecca's face pleads with me, eyes wide open, straining to know the answer. "It's Sarah's assistant, Anne," I finally say. Shit. Rebecca looks at both notes. She returns her gaze to me. "And you're sure?" "Look at the writing, of course I'm sure." I shove both notes in her face, a few inches from her nose. She swats them away. "Easy. I'm on your side, remember?" I take a deep breath and step back from her. Rebecca looks me up and down. "She sent the threat. But if she killed Kelly, what would her motive be?" "How should I know? I'm not a murderer. Remember?" I throw my hands up. "Well, think," Rebecca presses. "This isn't the time to fly off the handle." I rub my head, willing the answer to come to me. She's obsessed with Sarah, and she's never really liked me. Maybe she wanted her all to herself. If she's obsessed with Sarah, perhaps she'd do anything for Sarah, like kill her cheating husband's mistress? Rebecca raises an eyebrow. "Don't you dare. Sarah would never do that." I point at her and narrow my eyes. I could literally hurt Rebecca now. I can see the uneasiness in her face. How easy would it be to lunge across the room and take her to the ground, wrap my hands around her throat, crush her windpipe with my thumbs as I watch her eyes fill up with blood and life slowly leave her. I could be in control of something again. Finally, I could validate the fear that is on her face. Her voice is trembling when she begins to talk. "Listen, Adam, I didn't mean it that way. I just have to ask the hard questions sometimes, especially if I'm going to be of any help to you." I don't return the smile, but I do stop scowling at her. She's not the enemy, I remind myself. She's just trying to help. She's just trying to understand the situation. But I don't have time for her to understand. I don't have time to sit here. I need to leave. I need to confront Anne. I need her to confess what she did. I need this all to end. So what now? I try to divert myself from doing anything rash. Focus on Rebecca. Listen to her. Stay here with her. This will all get sorted out. She's helped me so much already. I stop pacing and I stand there in the middle of my living room, frozen in time. Rebecca is no longer tense, but she is concerned. She glances at me, then at her bag on the table and the set of keys next to it. I follow her gaze. Is she trying to leave? Does she think I'd do something to her? "I can take all this stuff to the police station, and I'm sure they would have to reopen the investigation." Her eyes are full of hope. I'm not sure whether that hope is for her or for me. "But the case is closed," I say. "Yes, but you haven't been convicted. The police have a responsibility to look into all suspects of the case." "But what if they don't? What if they refuse? What if it's too little too late?" "Your lawyer can still use it in the case. It definitely could work for creating reasonable doubt among the jury," she explains. "My lawyer? You mean my wife? Does she know Anne's the one that sent the note? Is she involved?" I start pacing again, harder and faster. She can't know, can she? I can't do this. As I walk, my eyes keep catching the set of keys like a small glimmer of hope, and when it happens, it's like no thought goes into it. I just do it. I don't look back. I grab the keys and run out of the house, jumping into Rebecca's Chevy Cruze. Rebecca chases after me. "Adam, what the hell are you doing? You're on house arrest. You can't leave. Wait!" I slam my foot on the gas pedal. The tires spin out, kicking up dirt and leaves, and then I'm pulling away from the house. My ankle bracelet begins to buzz and flash.
43. Sarah Morgan. I'm sitting in one of the many conference rooms within Williamson and Morgan. Anne scheduled a meeting with CA Josh Peters, and Matthew has joined me. A stack of boxes covers part of the table. My discovery, or really, lack thereof. It's there to throw the prosecution off and hopefully get them to uncover things I was unable to, thanks to the Prince William County Sheriff's Department no longer cooperating. Everything in those boxes has been carefully curated by Matthew, Anne, and me today to get Peters to do our dirty work. He should be here any minute. I know he thinks this case is a slam dunk, and it is, but I need him to believe there's some possibility of the prosecution losing. I need him to think I have something up my sleeve. Matthew takes a seat at the head of the conference table. Am I playing bad cop? He gives a small smirk. Always. And are you sure you want to be toying with the prosecution right now? He raises an eyebrow. Are you questioning my strategy again, Matthew? Just checking your judgment. There's a knock on the door. Anne carries in a tray full of snacks, soda, and water. Right this way, she says to C.A. Peters, who follows behind her. Who's this? He gestures to Matthew. Discovery is only for counsel. This is Matthew. He is assisting with this case. Matthew stands and holds out his hand. I'm doing more than assisting. Does he even have a law degree? C.A. Peters asks, as if Matthew isn't in the room. Yes, he and I went to Yale together. Which is why I'm a lobbyist now, not some Commonwealth's attorney that went to George Washington Night School. Matthew smirks and retakes his seat. C.A. Peters doesn't respond to Matthew's quip. He sits and directs his attention to me. Anyway, thanks for coming down here on such short notice, I say. He nods. Of course. What is it you wanted to discuss? Might I remind you the plea bargain is off the table. Anne gently closes the door behind her as she leaves. We wouldn't take the plea bargain even if it were on the table. Matthew gives him a stern look. Okay, then what is it you're looking for? C.A. Peters clasps his hands together. I point to the stack of boxes, and then I slide a few more folders toward him. This is our discovery so far. There will be more. He glances at the boxes and then pulls the folders toward him, flipping through them quickly. He closes them back up and looks at me. You might want to take a closer look. Not sure they taught you this in night school, but evidence is the most important part of a law case, Matthew retorts. C.A. Peters rolls his eyes, paying no mind to Matthew's bad cop routine. You could have sent these over to my office. I didn't need to come down here. I know that. I just wanted to give you the courtesy. I smirk. The courtesy of what? This case is open and shut. Is it, Counselor? Because from what I've found, it's not. That's where my courtesy to you comes in. You've been good to me, and I didn't want to embarrass you in that courtroom, so I'm giving you nearly all of our discovery early. He glances at the boxes again and at the folders in front of him. A look of suspicion begins to creep into his eyes as he tilts his head in either bewilderment or disbelief. I'm not sure which. I fully expected this reaction, though. I would have the same. I quickly press on. Oh, I almost forgot. I slide another folder to him. This folder contains the transcript of a conversation between Jesse Hook and Sheriff Stevens. I highlighted areas that I need C.A. Peters to see. I need him to want to talk to this witness. I need him to get more information out of this witness. He opens the folder and scans it. Who's Jesse Hook? Exactly, Matthew says. Not so open and shut, is it? Jesse Hook is, I say. There's a scream from outside the conference room.
44. Adam Morgan. An hour ago, I got in the car, and I didn't stop driving. I had tunnel vision. I was full of rage. The outside world careened by me, but only in various hues of crimson and scarlet, as if the blood boiling in my veins had grafted itself onto every single object I was seeing. And I knew leaving the house was going to have consequences, but I didn't care. I still don't care. I need to see this through. I need to get to the bottom of all of this. I'm running out of time, and this is my last chance, my last opportunity to learn what really happened that night at the lake house, to discover who was responsible for Kelly's death, and to free myself from this nightmare. I'm a few steps away from throwing the doors open and coming face to face with Anne, the woman I've known for years, the woman who threatened me, the woman who most likely killed Kelly, and the woman who was trying to frame me for it. How could she? How could she get so close without me knowing? Why was she at our lake house? I know Sarah has let her stay there in the past for vacation, but why was she there then? She's never been a person I looked at twice. She was there, seemingly innocent, but now I see the cracks in her. I see who she really is, a vengeful monster. Her quietness is now plotting and manipulative. Her politeness is cunning. Her entire wholesome demeanor is just a facade for who she truly is, a bitch of the highest order. The photo and the post-it note are clutched in my hand. I throw the doors open and I scan the office. A couple of people look up. Some look scared. Others are unfazed by my disheveled appearance. I walk farther into the office. I am looking for one person and one person only. I know where she'll be. It's where she always is, sitting, plotting, waiting. I round the corner and notice her desk is empty. Then, there she is, walking toward me, chatting with a man beside her and carrying a stack of folders. She doesn't notice me at first. The man she's walking with is familiar. I've seen him before. Well, obviously I must have seen him before, but I feel like this before was recent. She looks up and notices me, standing only 10 feet away. Her eyes widen like those of a deer that is about to be introduced to 3,000 pounds of steel careening toward it at 60 miles per hour. The man beside her notices she's stopped dead in her tracks and follows her gaze to find me. His eyes narrow. He recognizes me, and for a gleaming second I recognize him. But then I lose it as my attention refocuses on the she-devil in front of me, the woman attempting to steal my life, the woman who killed Kelly.
Adam, are you okay?
Anne stutters. You! I point at her as I close the gap between us, ready to tackle her, ready to hit her, ready to... I don't even know what I'm ready to do. She screams. It pierces the stale office air. You killed Kelly. You framed me. I know everything, you evil bitch. Just as I reach her, I'm knocked to the ground. One punch to the side of my face takes me out completely. Anne is crying and standing behind the man who sucker punched me.
What the hell is going on here?
Sarah runs in with Matthew and another man trailing. I recognize the man from my trial, Commonwealth's attorney Josh Peters.
Bob, what did you do?
She asks as she sees me writhing on the floor. He came at Anne. Bob points at me. That's Bob. Oh yes, I know Bob. He's the one who's been giving Sarah shit for the past couple of years and gunning for her job any chance he can get. He's a dick. I never liked him, even before Sarah had problems with him. Any office party Sarah dragged me to, he was there to remind us all how great he is.
What the hell, Adam? What are you doing?
Sarah's lips barely move as she speaks through clenched teeth. Anna cries like the conniving bitch she is. Bob and Matthew try to comfort her. C.A. Josh Peters is still trying to understand the situation, but I can see there's a look of triumph, because this is all looking good for his case. Unless, of course, I can prove Anne is behind all of this. Her, I say, pointing at Anne. Everyone looks at her. Anne gives a who me look. She took the photo. She wrote the threat. She killed Kelly. I toss the photo and note at Sarah's feet. Sarah reaches down and brings them both to her line of sight. Eyes are wide, mouths open. My accusation has taken everyone by surprise. It's a moment before anyone speaks. Anne shifts uncomfortably, scratching at her arm. Sarah redirects her attention to Anne.
Is this true?
She holds the photo and note up. Anne stutters. She looks down at the ground, shuffling her feet.
Yes. I went there to take some photographs, like the ones I showed you. But I saw them, Kelly and Adam, together.
Jesus Christ, Sarah huffs.
But I didn't kill Kelly. I wouldn't. And I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't, so I sent the threat.
I wanted him to fess up. Anne shakes her head, trying to convince us all, but mostly Sarah, that she's telling the truth. I don't buy it for 1 second. She's dangerous, Sarah. She threatened mine and Kelly's lives. Can't you see she has to be behind all of this? I plead. No! Anne looks at Sarah. It wasn't a death threat. It was an I'm going to tell Sarah if you don't threat. But you didn't tell me, Anne. Sarah spits venom. She's upset. She feels betrayed. I can see it in her face. It's clear to me she didn't know Anne knew about the affair. Anne hangs her head and cries harder. How could you not tell me, Anne? You're my assistant. You're my friend. You're practically family. Sarah's voice quakes. Anne stutters. Everybody freeze. Sheriff Stevens draws his gun. Deputies Hudson and Summers are standing on either side of him with guns drawn too. Shit. I put my hands up. Sarah appears annoyed, as does Bob. God, where the hell did I just see him? I rack my brain trying to recall. Sarah hasn't dragged me to an office party in quite some time. Maybe he was at the courthouse? Maybe he gave an interview on the case and I saw him on the news or in the paper. Adam Morgan, you're under arrest for violating the terms of your bail, Sheriff Stevens says as deputies Hudson and Summers pick me up from the floor, handcuffing me. Wait, Anne! Anne sent the threat. She killed Kelly. Arrest her! I get one hand free, pointing at that little weasel. Sheriff Stevens exchanges a glance with Sarah and Scott Summers. Scott instantly turns red and is already manhandling Anne. No questions asked. Anne screams as Scott tries to handcuff her. Wait a minute, Bob yells. What do you think you're doing? You heard him. She had something to do with my wife's murder. She's coming with us, Scott says. You can't just arrest her, Sarah pipes in. Matthew and C.A. Peters back her up. Sarah, she lied to you. My eyes grow wide in disbelief. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, but she has rights. Sarah shakes her head. Anne thanks her. Don't you speak to me, Sarah warns. Anne shrinks and lowers her head. What do you want to do, boss? Deputy Hudson holds me in place by the cuffs. This is a nightmare. We're bringing her in for questioning. If she doesn't want to come, we'll get a warrant, Sheriff Stevens says. Anne raises her head. I'll go. I have nothing to hide. Yeah, right, lying bitch, I say under my breath, but loud enough for everyone to hear. That's enough, Bob exclaims. And it's at that moment that I realize where I saw Bob recently. It's the look on his face that brings back the image. My mouth drops open. It's you. I point at Bob's smug face. Me what? He asks. You. You're Nicholas Robert Miller. You're Kelly's ex-husband's brother. Scott's anger has yet to subside and is only intensifying every moment he's here. I'm not being pulled into this, Bob says matter-of-factly. You killed her, didn't you? I'll hear no more of this nonsense. Bob's face tightens. Is that true? Are you Kelly's ex-husband's brother? Sarah asks. Bob hangs his head. Yes, but I had nothing to do with any of this. Sarah lets out a gasp. Jesus Christ, this case was supposed to be closed, Sheriff Stevens says in exasperation. Scott begins breathing heavily, and then in an instant he's on top of Bob, pummeling away. Sheriff Stevens and Deputy Hudson scream at him to stop and pull him off. After a cacophony of shouting and tangling and untangling of polyester, the chaos subsides and heavy panting begins to fill the space. I'll have your badge for this, you ape-pig piece of shit, Bob yells at Deputy Summers, blood spraying from his mouth. Bob doesn't appear to be anywhere near physically capable of taking on the good deputy mano a mano, but if looks could kill, Scott would be side by side with his dearly departed wife. C.A. Peters turns to Sarah. I'm going to hold off on discovery because it appears you have more to present. Just call my office and I'll have someone come pick up everything when it's ready. He ducks out quickly, not wanting to be caught up in the mess, I imagine. Sarah nods as he walks away. Matthew rubs Sarah's shoulder, trying to comfort her. That should be me rubbing her shoulder, not Matthew. All right, Everyone, let's go. We're going to the station now, Sheriff Stevens commands. I guess it's back to my old stomping ground after all. 45. Adam Morgan. I knew before my rampage started that it wasn't going to end well for me. I'm an idiot, and I'm sure Sarah is going to take every opportunity to remind me of that. Now, though, my main concern is the extreme pain exerted as a pair of handcuffs are squeezed and twisted so tightly that the skin is beginning to roll back off my wrists like shavings from a pencil sharpener. You don't have to pull that hard, I plead to Sheriff Stevens. Respectfully, Mr. Morgan, I don't really think you are in a position to decide what is or isn't best. So if you could just kindly shut the hell up and come with me back to Central Processing, I would surely be grateful. There's enough condescension in the sheriff's tone to humble even the toughest of customers. I want to come back with a clever quip, but my judgment tells me that it will serve me no good. I just do as I am told. At least I'm in better shape than Bob is right now. The thought alone causes a small smirk to grow across my face. This should all be fairly familiar to you, Mr. Morgan. However, unlike last time, we will not be quickly trying to get you out of here so you can be on your merry way after a night or two. Something tells me you'll be in for a little while. But hey, what do I know? I just bring the bad guys in. I don't make the laws, Sheriff Stevens says. For some reason, when he calls me Mr. Morgan, it is more of a slight than if he just referred to me as Adam. Almost as if the familiarity of that first-name basis isn't something he wants with scum like me. Sadly, it is all familiar, I say. I try to keep my sarcasm in check, as all I want for this night is for it to be over. Hopefully one way or another it will be your last time with us. This could be taken as kind or as evil, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I feel the beginnings of a panic attack, but I do a breathing exercise and focus on the realization that I can't solve anything. Not here. Not now, anyway. And I come back down to earth. I'm gonna leave you with these guys for a minute. Sheriff Stevens nods at a couple of blue-uniformed gentlemen with unpleasant expressions. I just have to ask, though. Why? You knew you had the ankle bracelet on. You knew we would find you. You knew it would only make things worse. So why? Because I didn't do it, and no one is listening to me. I see. Sheriff Stevens stands still for a moment, looking down at the floor as if he will somehow find an answer hidden within the pattern of the gray paint flaking off the roughly poured concrete floor. He then looks up at me and opens his mouth to speak, but all that comes out is a breath. He closes his mouth, shakes his head, and walks back toward the entrance of the station. Mr. Adam Morgan, is it? One of the deputies asks. Yeah, that's me. Are we gonna do this the easy way, or am I gonna have to drag you by those goddamn handcuffs to cooperate, because I'm good either way? But you scream flight risk to me, the deputy says with a full-toothed smile, all while smacking his gum as loud as possible for emphasis. I won't be any trouble this evening, sir. I'm too tired to fight anymore. Smart decision. I wonder what Sarah must think of all of this. I mean, I know the obvious parts, the anger, disappointment, shock at my stupidity. But what about what I was saying? She must know deep down that I wouldn't have made that all-for-nothing excursion for no reason, knowing full well it would land me in a world of hurt. I just hope somebody, anybody, will finally start listening to me. Just how screwed am I at this point? I'm not sure I even want to know the answer.
46. Sarah Morgan. The visitor's lot is nearly empty when Matthew and I arrive at the station. Matthew gives me an encouraging look and a nod as he holds the door for me. You've got this, he says. Thanks. My lips form into a small, tight smile. I walk into the waiting area, shoulders back, chin held high. I'm going to need to muster up all my strength and confidence to get through this evening. May I help you? Marge asks through bulletproof plexiglass. I'm just waiting. Need you to sign in, she says. pushing a clipboard under the plexiglass. We sign in and take a seat in the reception area, waiting for Bob and Anne to arrive. I'll deal with Adam after I've heard both their interviews. Think they'll come? Matthew asks. If they're innocent, they will, I offer, although I'm not convinced them showing up would have anything to do with their innocence. But as they say, innocent people don't run. Less than 20 minutes later, Anne and Bob arrive. They sit on the opposite side of the waiting area. Bob stares off into the distance, rubbing his temples, and Anne is still intermittently crying. My face is twisted in a way that clearly conveys disgust, and the only question that repeats over and over in my head as I glower at Bob and Anne is, who are these people? Time slowly melts as the four of us float in purgatory. Our only punishment is being in each other's company. The awkwardness of the situation and Anne's shame mixed with Bob's anger are palpable and make the time drag even slower. Just when I think things couldn't get any worse, the front door of the police station opens and in walks Eleanor, dressed in all black, looking like the Grim Reaper. I stand, ready to fill her in on everything that's transpired while she's been gone, but before I can even get out a phony welcome, she's standing directly in front of me with lips pursed so tightly it looks like her filler might ooze out. How could you let this happen? I was gone for 1 day. She practically spits in my face. Eleanor, your son is 36 years old. He's a grown adult and responsible for his own actions. I can't watch him 24/7. No, you obviously can't. And that's probably why he was unfaithful to you. She raises her chin. I take a small breath. Don't hit her. Don't hit her. Don't hit her. That's really not fair. I'm doing everything I can for his case. I stand a bit taller, trying to make myself bigger than her. There shouldn't even be a case. He's innocent. But now he's going to face charges for assault and bail jumping because you couldn't keep an eye on him. Eleanor, just stop. You're being ridiculous. I shake my head. Am I? You couldn't even keep an eye on your own mother, and look what happened to her. The corners of her mouth curve into a grin as if she's pleased with her little comment. Anne lets out an audible gasp. Bob shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Matthew half stands. I'd love to bash her skull into the ground over and over again until I see brain, if she even has one. But I don't need to defend myself from murder as well. I have to put an end to Eleanor's involvement in this case and in my life, and I know just what to say. I take a deep breath. Your son is a liar, a cheater, and possibly a murderer. Your coddling and over-the-top mothering has gotten Adam into this mess. The best thing you could do as a mother is to take note from mine and kill yourself. Eleanor's eyes widen to a new level, and her mouth gapes. She raises her hand and slaps me hard across the face. You wouldn't know a mother's love, you little bitch. It stings, and I put my hand to it. When I take my fingers away, there is a smear of blood from where her ring made contact with my cheek. Eleanor takes a step back. Her teeth are clenched, and the fire in her eyes is still burning strong. Matthew wraps his arm around me, inspecting my face. He turns to Eleanor and says calmly, You should go. You won't be able to see Adam tonight anyway. The security door adjacent to the reception area beeps, and a large figure crosses the threshold. What the hell is going on here? Sheriff Stevens glances at me and then at Eleanor. She straightens herself, tilts her head, and does an about-face, scurrying out of the police station back into whatever five-star hole she is occupying. It's nothing. Let's just get this over with. I say as I pull my hand from my face. You sure? That's quite the mark you got there. I nod. Have they all been checked in, Marge? Sheriff Stevens asks the receptionist. Yep, Marge replies without even looking up from her paperwork. All right, you guys can come with me. Sheriff Stevens extends an arm. We follow him down a narrow, painted concrete corridor. Matthew and I walk side by side while Bob and Anne trail behind us. The walls are white on top and red below. The color contrast is jarring on the eye, and that is precisely the effect intended on people being helplessly escorted to various interrogation rooms. The sheriff brings us all into one room and begins speaking to us without offering any of us a seat or taking one himself. First, I want to thank all of you on behalf of the Prince William County Sheriff's Department for volunteering your time to assist with an ongoing investigation. I must remind you all that none of you are under arrest, and under no circumstance are you required to speak to us. That being said, if you do volunteer to share information with us, it will be recorded and may be used in the course of the investigation. If that is clear and acceptable to you all, do you still wish to proceed? Nods all around the room supply him with his answer. Good. Well, as I said, it is most appreciated. Before starting, Mr. Miller, you sustained injuries today because of the horrible actions of Deputy Summers. I'm sure you can imagine the level of duress that he is under and the emotions he is dealing with. However, his behavior was unacceptable, and there is no excuse for it. He's been placed on suspension without pay and is under internal review. I am telling you this because I want you to know that we are taking the matter very seriously. Sheriff Stevens looks right at Bob and asks, Mr. Miller, do you wish to press charges, as is your right, against Deputy Summers? No, I do not. Bob answers confidently. I know he's dealing with a lot right now, and what Mr. Morgan was accusing me of must have been rather upsetting. I can't say I'm not glad to hear you say that, Mr. Miller. Scott can be a bit of a loose cannon, but deep down he is a good officer. Bob just nods, clearly wanting to get this all over with. All right, then. We will be separating the two of you. He points at Bob and Anne. I will have 2 officers escort you into separate rooms. A pair of officers enter. If you would please follow them. Sheriff Stevens drops back into an open-armed stance as if playing Christ at the center of the table in the Last Supper. Anne gives a quick glance at me. I purse my lips, giving her neither direction nor communication. Bob walks out with his chin slightly up in the air. When everyone exits, Matthew and I are left face to face with Sheriff Stevens. So, he opens the exchange. Quite the shit show in the upper echelon today. Yeah, I respond. If only some officers of the law would have responded faster when an alarm went off telling them a man accused of murder went barreling off his designated premises at 100 miles per hour, then maybe this all could have been avoided. But hey, it's hard to hear alarm bells over the loud chewing of donuts, Matthew quips. Who are you? Sheriff Stevens asks. Matthew Latchaw. He thrusts his hand for a handshake, establishing dominance. Sheriff Stevens folds his arms in front of his chest. Our officers followed protocol to the best of their ability and were mere minutes behind Mr. Morgan. You both should be thankful for how fast they did, in fact, respond. The scene at your office could have been far worse. There's a serious tone to his delivery. Maybe so, but if Scott Summers hadn't been there, Bob might still be able to walk normally this evening. I chime in. Deputy Summers' actions were regrettable, as I noted. His behavior will be dealt with. What's the plan? I ask, wanting to move this process along. My cheek is burning, and I need a stiff drink. We'll question both Anne and Bob. Frankly, I'm just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, as this case is closed on our end. You have to admit, this is a weird connection. Bob has motive, and Anne threatened Adam. So I'd appreciate it if you did more than just cross the T's and dot the I's, I say sternly, and I'd like a handwriting analysis of the note in comparison to Anne's. You're right. It's definitely suspicious. If either of them was involved, we'll find out. He tries to match the seriousness in my tone of voice. No need on the handwriting analysis. She's already admitted to writing the note. Have you heard of false confessions? I'll need the handwriting analysis. This sheriff's police work is sloppy at best, and I'm unsure if it's due to ignorance or if it's intentional. He presses his lips tightly together and nods. May we observe the questioning of the 2 persons of interest? I ask. Their testimony will ultimately be pertinent to my case. Sure, I don't see why not. I can't tell if he thinks he is doing me a favor or is just in an agreeable mood. Would you mind staggering the interviews then so we can observe them both? Sheriff Stevens raises his eyebrows at my question. I suppose we could. His voice trails up very high at the end. But you do know that will greatly increase the time you are here for the evening, right? Obviously, Matthew rolls his eyes. I understand, I say with clear confidence in my voice. Okay then, sure. I'll let the deputies know. Do you have a preference of who first? Let's start with Anne.
47. Adam Morgan. What the hell is taking so long? And where the hell is my mom? I called her as soon as they finished booking me. I paced back and forth in the interrogation room, a place I have become quite familiar with over the past 2 weeks. They better find something on Anne and Bob. This is my last hope, and I need Sarah and Sheriff Stevens to believe me. They have to believe that I didn't do it, just enough to thoroughly look into Bob and Anne. The door is thrown open with such force it slams against the concrete wall and bounces back into Scott Summers. He winces in pain and then shuffles in. He looks like a wild animal, flushed, breathing heavily, eyes bloodshot, lips pursed. "We need to talk," he says sternly. I put my hands up, showing that I'm not looking for a fight. "Relax, I'm not going to hit you." I fold my arms across my chest, waiting for him to speak. "I don't have much time. I shouldn't be here. Tell me everything you know about Bob and Anne." He gives me a fleeting look. "I don't think you did this, and I know I didn't." I start. "I don't give a damn about your theories, just tell me the facts." He takes a couple of steps closer to me and grits his teeth. Okay. I tell him everything. Everything I know about Bob, about Anne, about Kelly. Everything. "How did you find this information out?" "I can't tell you my source," I say. "I don't give a fuck about protecting your source. You'll be locked up until the trial for the shit you pulled today. I'm all you've got. If you want to get out of this whole mess, tell me." His patience is worn thin. He's broken out in a sweat and he's glancing at the door and the one-way mirror frantically. There's no way he should be here now. He attacked an attorney, one of the best in the D.C. area. You don't just walk away from that, even if your wife was murdered. "Fine. Her name is Rebecca Sanford. She's a reporter for the Prince William Times. I hope to God Scott is telling the truth about not being involved with his wife's murder. Otherwise, I just gave him a smoking gun for my guilty conviction. Without Rebecca, I don't have a chance in hell of getting out of this, unless Sarah is working on another angle for my case." He nods at me and tells me he'll be in touch. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm hopeful. Even when you have nothing left in your life, hope is the one thing that can never be taken away. Scott leaves without another word. I take a seat at the table and wait. I've gotten pretty good at waiting.
48. Sarah Morgan. I headed to the bathroom to clean up my face before returning to the observation room looking in on Anne's interrogation. She sits alone, scared, nervous, guilty, maybe. She taps her fingers on the table, then fiddles with the hem of her shirt, then twirls her hair. She doesn't know what to do with herself. Matthew is leaning against the wall behind me, watching Anne and me. I told him he could go. This isn't his mess, nor his problem, but he insisted on being here, on helping me with this case. "That was pretty messed up what happened out there with Eleanor," he says. "Yeah, it was. I can't believe you told her the best thing she could do as a mother was kill herself. That was cold." I turn back and look at him. I needed to say something to push her over the edge, enough that she would hit me. This whole charade of us going back and forth had to end. It's exhausting and it's not helping the case. "So you took one for the team?" He crosses one leg in front of the other. I turn back to the one-way glass. "You could say that." I've dealt with Eleanor's cutting remarks, insults, condescending comments, and overall bullshit for more than a decade. It felt good to watch her lose her shit and finally come down to earth for once. The slap was worth it. Sheriff Stevens enters the interrogation room and takes a seat across from Anne. He offers her water. She declines. He explains her rights. She nods. He tells her that the conversation will be recorded and may be used as evidence. She stares at him blankly, and then he begins his interrogation. "Where were you the night of October 15th? "I went out for drinks with my boss, Sarah Morgan." "Is this a common occurrence?" "Yeah, Sarah and I are friends, or at least we were, she says sheepishly. She's got that right. Friends tell you if your husband is cheating. How do you know Kelly Summers? Sheriff Stevens leans back in his chair. I don't. But you knew of her before her murder? Sheriff Stevens taps his fingers on the table. Anne swallows hard and nods. Yes, not her name or anything. I just saw her with Adam. And what were you doing in Prince William County? He cocks his head. I had been there in the summer for vacation, and I loved the scenery for my photography, and I thought it would be even more beautiful in the fall. I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. I was just taking some photos. It was completely innocent. Innocent? Well, it was, Anne says. But you decided to take that information and threaten Adam with it? It wasn't my best judgment. She frowns. I just didn't want to be the one to tell Sarah. I didn't want to hurt her. Anne fidgets with her fingernails. End it, or I will, sounds like a death threat. Would you agree? She hangs her head. I can see that now, but that wasn't my intention. I had planned on telling Sarah if Adam didn't end it, or didn't tell her himself. Did you ever see Kelly with anyone else? Sheriff Stevens asks. Anne glances around the room. What an odd question, Matthew says from behind me. It is, isn't it? I glance back at him and then return my attention to Anne and Sheriff Stevens. What is he getting at? What's his angle? No? Anne crinkles up her forehead. And where were you on the evening of Sunday, October 15th? Like I said, I was having drinks with Sarah Morgan until around midnight. She knew about Adam's affair in the weeks leading up to the murder, and she didn't say anything. Maybe if she would have told me, this wouldn't have happened. Kelly would still be alive. I would have confronted Adam. We'd either be working toward reconciliation or I'd be prepping divorce papers, but either way, he wouldn't be on trial for murder. I turn to look at Matthew for a moment. He nods his head. What's done is done. I let out a sigh and redirect my attention back at Anne, glaring at her through the glass. I can't believe she didn't tell me. A piece of my brain is telling me to erupt at Anne, and before I can quiet it, I'm bursting through the door of the interrogation room. Sarah, please. But Anne's words are cut short as I dive headlong across the table and tackle her to the ground. I start pummeling her face, pretending she is the manifestation of everyone who has fucked me over in my life. My knuckles and rings gouge into her skin. Sheriff Stevens tries to pull me off, but I elbow him in the nose and send him reeling. As Anne slowly climbs back to her feet, she tries to cry for help, but her mouth is so full of blood, all that comes out is a weak gurgle and pink mist. I run over, grab her by the hair, begin to spin her around in circles, and then I release her straight through the one-way mirror. Pieces of glass rain everywhere, and I pick up a particularly jagged piece as I continue my rampage toward Anne. I blink repeatedly, bringing my mind back to reality. I see Anne and Sheriff Stevens sitting in the interrogation room. I need a break from this shit. My head is in the clouds right about now. Everyone I thought I could trust, I've learned I can't. I don't even know which emotion to pick, and I decide that getting some fresh air is my best course of action. Matthew asks if I'm all right. I nod and walk down the hall to find Marge still with her nose in her paperwork. Excuse me, Marge, is it? I'm heading outside for some air if that's okay. This isn't kindergarten, ma'am. You don't need my permission to walk in and out of a building. Marge replies, still without looking up from her work. I just thought you would... Never mind. I walk out the door. Outside, the air feels like I've jumped into a cold pool. I take a deep breath and blow it out with force as I close my eyes and try to clear my head. I'm trying to think of pure whiteness, a blank Word document with not a single line of legalese on it, the monuments in D.C. just after being cleaned. My brain tries to mimic the color and clear itself, but rather than a purge, I come face to face with a dark pool of ifs and whys. My heart rate has accelerated. This respite from the circus is anything but. I look up and see the myriad of dots painted across the nothing night sky stretched behind. I am envious of their isolation. At least no one bothers you, I say as a tear begins to well up in the corner of my eye. But no, the dam I have built up to stave off my emotions, for this case, for my career, for my marriage, it needs to hold, at least for a little while longer. I dry my eyes and turn to walk back inside. Matthew stands in the doorway. I wondered where you had gone to. I just needed a minute. He walks to me and wraps his arm around my shoulder. You think you know people. I shake my head. Look, for what it's worth, I think Anne's intentions are in the right place. Don't, I warn. I really don't want to hear about Anne's intentions. I've been betrayed by nearly everyone in my life. Matthew lets out a small sigh, and never one to quit, he continues. Like I was saying, Anne isn't, how would you say, the strongest of people? She is a follower, not a leader. You have no idea how much that girl idolizes you, Sarah. So the idea of her being the one to turn your world upside down, she just couldn't do it. She was too scared of being the dead messenger that you would just leave in your wake and never remember again. People do lots of stupid things under extreme duress, but I'm telling you right now, I know when someone is lying or not, and that woman in there would never mean to hurt you. I know Matthew's right. Anne is like the little sister I never had, and our relationship is more than a subordinate and a superior, more than a meal ticket and a mouth to be fed, more than a rung on a ladder to be climbed and an ambitious young woman. I know she wouldn't, I say grudgingly. There you two are. Sheriff Stevens pushes open the door. I wrap things up with Anne. We'll still do the handwriting analysis as you requested, but based on that initial interview, I think she's clean. Matthew drops his arm from my shoulder and we take a few steps toward Sheriff Stevens. Regardless of how upset I am with her, I have to agree. I admit, I want to be mad at her, and I still am, but Matthew and Sheriff Stevens are both right. There's no way she had anything to do with this. Should we move on to Bob? Matthew and I nod and follow Sheriff Stevens back into the police station.
49. Adam Morgan. Scott wants to help me. Part of me isn't surprised. If he really doesn't believe that I killed her, which he shouldn't because I didn't, then as someone who lost the person he loves most, he should stop at nothing to bring the true culprit to justice. But, on the other hand, Scott has been known to let his temper get the best of him, and he is an asshole. Would it be so surprising for a piece of shit like that to pretend like he believed me just to win back some credibility with the department, all while pushing my head underwater with his boot even farther? The shitty reality is that beggars can't be choosers, and right now Scott is all I have left. But should I be doing this to myself, really? My mind is almost reaching a state of ultimate enlightenment as I am able to hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time. On the one hand, I know that hope is the only thing that I can cling to, and the only thing that can't be taken from me, so I should hold on to it for dear life, right? But on the other hand, I'm not naive. I know my chances are slim to non-fucking existent. Another possibility does cross my mind. What if Scott is the killer? All of his erratic behavior, the loose cannon, bereaved widower act is both a cover for the truth and a convenient outlet for the fear and caged animal emotions running through him. If that is the case, then I am giving him even more ammunition to use against me. And not only that, but I have led him straight to the one person on the outside who was willing to help me uncover the truth. With me stuck in here and no one watching Rebecca, Scott can hunt her down and dispose of her just as easily as he did Kelly. Really, though, at this point, short of a miracle, I am fucked either way. So who cares what happens on the outside? All I can do now is just sit and wait. Or maybe not.
50. Sarah Morgan. We walk back inside with Sheriff Stevens. My anger hasn't entirely dissipated, but at least I am trying to process everything. While I can be angry that Anne withheld information from me, she isn't the one who made Adam screw Kelly and certainly isn't the reason someone killed her. Her motives, while slightly misguided, were not nefarious. That is enough of a kernel of redemption to start bringing my blood pressure down to a more human level. I'm not naive, though, and I still have to brace myself for another potential bomb, as it is now Bob's turn to speak. Marge changes her tune when Sheriff Stevens walks through as opposed to some annoyance in the form of yet another attorney. "Hello again, sir. Returning to the dungeons? Would you like me to buzz you through?" she says with a smile. She is clearly amused by her own choice of wording and pleased to have the opportunity to aid the good sheriff in any way. "No, Marge, it's fine. I can scan myself through. And how many times have I asked you, please, not to call it that, especially in front of visitors?" he says with an imitation stern tone that suggests a mere show of reprimand as opposed to actual anger. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll try and remember better in the future." There's a wry smirk across her face. Sheriff Stevens winks at her so slightly I wonder if I'm only imagining it. He scans us through with his badge and leads us back to the interrogation rooms. Past the same eye-accosting walls, we move in lockstep across the cheap flooring. This time, at the next intersection, though, we take a left instead of a right. Bob is sitting behind the one-way glass, clearly agitated by the wait. He's looking around as if searching for someone or something to vent his frustration at. His legs bounce as he fidgets wildly, and perspiration has built up near his hairline. He isn't used to being on the other side of the table. Sheriff Stevens stops before leaving us. "Are you ready for me to do this? If not, we can wait a little longer and make him sweat some more." His smile is meant to be disarming, I'm sure. "No, I'm fine. I just want this over with," I respond. I am both drained and anxious to just leave. My confident lawyer persona has all but vanished for the night, and I need to go home and recharge it. I'm in a vulnerable spot without my armor, and Sheriff Stevens is not the person I need around. I'm just glad Matthew is here. "All right, then." The sheriff nods as he enters the interview room. Bob's head immediately snaps toward the door. His eyes narrow, and the fidgeting legs come to an immediate halt. Bob might be a blowhard and a bit of a cock 99% of the time, but he is a good lawyer and a ruthless cross-examiner. He looks like he doesn't want to leave this station without the gratification of a fight. "Good evening, Mr. Miller. I'm sorry to keep you waiting so long. Can I get you anything to drink? Water? Coffee?" Sheriff Stevens knows the tough guy act that immediately caved Anne won't work on Bob. He starts with the nice guy routine to perhaps keep things civil. "Save your apologies and your pleasantries. I don't need refreshments. This isn't my first rodeo, so let's just skip the bullshit." So much for the civility play. "Very well, then." Sheriff Stevens chuckles to himself as he takes a seat, amused by Bob's bravado. "Let's start with what you know about Kelly Summers." "What about her specifically, Sheriff Stevens?" Bob knows what the police can and cannot use in court. He knows what looks like fishing or speculation versus actual evidence. Sheriff Stevens' questions will need to be tight as a drum, or this will go on all night. "I apologize. For a second, I forgot I was dealing with an attorney. No fluff questions, then. Did you know the victim, Kelly Summers, in any way prior to the start of this case?" "Yes, I did." No extrapolating will be found in any of Bob's answers. The door of our room opens and in walks Deputy Marcus Hudson, smug as ever. His shoulders are held high and there's a shit-eating grin on his face. "What are you doing here?" I ask. "Observing this interrogation as I have every right to do." He stands behind, towering over Matthew and me. "Every right to, but no reason to." Matthew scoffs at him. "You reek of suspicion." Deputy Hudson laughs. "Be that as it may, I'm the law around here." "Just keep your mouth shut and let me do my job. And you better be ready to be the law when I call you to the stand," I say without even looking back at him. Deputy Hudson groans and I hear his feet shuffle, and the air around me becomes less stuffy. I redirect my attention to the interrogation room. Would you care to explain how you knew Kelly Summers, or better yet, Jenna Way? Sheriff Stevens asks. She was married to my brother. Bob replies. Your brother from Wisconsin? Correct. Whom she murdered? I didn't say that. She was never found guilty of such a crime, so any statement coming to that conclusion would be pure speculation, Bob says with a tinge of contempt in his voice. It would appear Sheriff Stevens has found the right button to press. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Your brother, whom she was married to, who then wound up murdered, and then she fled the state, nowhere to be found. Sheriff Stevens depresses his finger slightly farther onto the big red button marked Dead Brother that lies just under Bob's skin. Yes, she was married to him. Yes, he was murdered. Whether or not she, quote, fled the state as opposed to just leaving under standard circumstances is, again, speculation. His frustration builds further. Gotcha. Did anyone ever end up being charged as it pertains to your brother being... Sheriff Stevens runs a finger across his throat to signal Bob's brother's death. No one was charged in my brother's... Bob pantomimes the action back to Sheriff Stevens, spit coming through his clenched teeth as he answers. That's gotta suck, huh? I mean, your brother's life just gets extinguished, poof. And whoever did it to him is just walking around. I mean, that's really gotta chap your ass. Especially someone as familiar with the justice system as you. But hey, then again, on your side of the aisle, it's your job to defend those very types. I mean, hell, for all you know, you've helped that same person out of a pickle right under your nose. I mean, it could be anybody, right? That's statistically possible, isn't it, counselor? Sheriff Stevens ends his line of questioning with an up-pitch in his voice and his head cocked, waiting for an answer. Bob is now a shade of red typically reserved only for fire trucks or perhaps the inside of a volcano. He sits silently for a long time while his legs slowly start to bounce again. The room becomes thick and dense, like the night air right before it is about to snow. Finally, Bob lets out a long breath, and a single tear begins to well up in his left eye, mere centimeters from the vein in his forehead that seems poised to blow. Sheriff, I am here for questioning under your supervision voluntarily. I am not under arrest and have not been charged with any crime. As such, it is my constitutional right to both refrain from answering any questions as well as leave under my own power and not to be restrained or kept against my will. I am, of course, happy to comply and cooperate with law enforcement in any manner where I could be of assistance in the pursuit of lawful justice, and as such, am more than willing to answer any further questions in writing submitted to my office. Bob then stands and leaves without looking at Sheriff Stevens. Excuse me, sir, but we aren't done. Sheriff Stevens blurts out, but the door is already closing, and the words fail to reach their target, as if frozen in midair and then shattered to pieces on the ground. I quickly stand up and open the door to the hallway. Bob walks past me. He sees me but continues without a word, knowing full well that I witnessed everything. He gives me a look of contempt so deep that I can actually feel pain from the cut he surely hoped it would make in me. Sheriff Stevens comes out, looking down at the floor. He stops for a moment and then turns to me. What the hell was that? I say to him. He wasn't helpful. Yes, he was. By even being here, he was. Just because he wasn't some pushover or afraid of you doesn't give you the right to do what you did. I try to keep my voice quiet enough so Bob can't hear, but loud enough so Sheriff Stevens can know my anger. I thought I could get something out of him. I was just trying to find an angle to provide some help. Sheriff Stevens says with a hint of pleading in his voice. Well, you didn't. Instead, you borderline tortured a man about his dead brother. You found a wound, stuck a knife in, and amused yourself as you slowly started twisting. He isn't on trial here for murder. He was trying to be agreeable as best he could, but do you think he will help now? Sarah, I was just trying. Save it. I hope you feel big. In fact, how about you take some of that bloated tough guy cocksureness and find out what really happened? I turn on my heels and walk down the hallway. Matthew is only a few steps behind me. Sheriff Stevens says something, but I've tuned him out so thoroughly I couldn't even begin to guess what he said. Out in the lobby, Anne is sitting in a chair crying, and Bob is pacing. They both look at me when the door opens, and I consider for a moment offering them a ride home, but I don't trust either of them. Sheriff Stevens didn't get to the bottom of anything with Bob, and Anne's still on my shit list. You have to sign out on the register if you are all officially leaving, Marge yells through the silver-tinted mouth slats lodged in her bulletproof separating wall. I glance at Bob and Anne for a moment and then avert my eyes. I can't look at either of them right now. Out in the cold night air, Matthew and I head toward my car in silence, a trend that continues the entire car ride home. 51. Sarah Morgan. After 2 double Tito's, both of which I consumed in under 30 minutes while reviewing case documents, the sting in my cheek begins to lose its potency. That bitch of a mother-in-law really clocked me one, and the gaudy jewels that adorn her knuckles didn't help either. She cut me more than surface level with that dig about my mother, especially because she wasn't wrong. I didn't know love from my mother, at least not since my father passed. He was the glue that kept us all together, the one who encouraged me in life and brought joy to my mother. He was the man of the house in the most traditional sense possible, straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. My father was the sole breadwinner and was the only thing keeping our little nucleus rotating smoothly. But that came to a screeching halt. We lost everything with one unfair act. A father, a husband, a provider, a protector. The only person who pushed me to be more and kept me engaged with life, and the only person keeping my mother from nosediving off her plateau of happiness and into a sea of depression. When he was gone, we had nothing. No money, no income, no spark of life. My mother couldn't hold a job because she was so depressed that she slept all day and rarely ate or spoke. In my eyes, she merely saw the reflection of the woman she used to be. Where I once was a collective joy for her and my father, I was now only a symbol of pain and loss. I resented her for this. Not just that, though. True, she abandoned me emotionally when I needed her the most, but she also showed weakness in ways that I no longer could feel sympathy for, but rather anger and embarrassment. Whenever my mother did speak, it always devolved into a fight. Just get out of my house. I can't stand to look at you. Your house? Your house? This isn't your house, it's Dad's. You've never worked a day in your life. You're weak and pathetic, and you can't even keep it together for the two of us. You're supposed to be the adult here, not me. How dare you? You have no idea what it's like. Scenes like this played out over and over, but with less and less frequency as my mother became more and more nocturnal and made fewer and fewer appearances outside her cave of sorrow. I assumed something nefarious was afoot when the refrigerator started becoming less and less full, and past due notices began arriving in the mail. Like most addicts, at first she was very good at hiding her behavior. But eventually the life insurance money ran out, and the welfare money must not have covered her mounting addiction needs. Then items went missing from the house, and random visitors accompanied her home in the evening. Men whose faces I never saw, but I knew them intimately from their tone of voice and primal noises of both frustration and ecstasy. By the time I was 15, we had lost the house and bounced around between women's shelters and motel rooms. I waitressed early mornings before school and on nights and weekends to afford the necessities like food, clothing, and shelter, while my mother prostituted herself to afford her growing addictions. I stayed under the radar at school by keeping out of trouble and maintaining a high GPA. I preferred taking care of myself rather than living in some foster home. On my 16th birthday, I found my mother's body in a cockroach-infested motel room we had been staying in. I would no longer have to care for her, work 40 hours a week to support us both, have to fight off the men that thought I would be a sweet indulgence after she had passed out. I stared at her pale, thin body for over an hour. A hollow, lifeless shell. 4 empty needles were stuck into her arm. I packed up our things and walked to a payphone to call 911. That was the last I ever saw of my mother, and I vowed to never be like her. But even my mother still did more for me than Eleanor has for Adam. My mother made me wise, made me independent, made me learn how to fight for myself. Eleanor made Adam weak, her love smothering out his ability to exist on his own. My mother and Eleanor aren't so different, the way most addicts aren't. The only difference is that Eleanor is still feeding her addiction, while my mother's took her long ago.
52. Adam Morgan. Moments after Scott Summers stormed out of the interview room, I noticed the door slightly ajar. I stand and pace, listening intently for anyone in the hall. I tap the large mirror, seeing if anyone is in there watching me. After a few minutes, I work up the courage to do something I'm most certainly going to regret. Pulling open the door slowly, I peek out into the hall, and I'm met with silence. I creep out of the interview room and make for the front of the building, crossing paths with no one. Before entering the lobby, I spot Marge at the front desk, muttering to herself as she pushes papers around. She picks up her coffee cup and disappears into a side room. It's now or never. I move quickly but silently, glancing back only once as I jump the barrier, cross the lobby, and exit through the front doors. Sarah's car is still in the parking lot. I turn right and head down the street. I'm not sure where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I can't stay here. I have to find Rebecca. She's the only one that can help me now.
53. Sarah Morgan. I didn't bother to set an alarm after last night's clusterfuck, and instead just let myself sleep until I naturally woke up. It was the first good night's rest I've gotten since I took on the case. After a nice long shower, a cup of French press coffee, and a big savory breakfast, I feel I can handle everything again. Bob and Anne are at the top of my to-do list, but there's also the matter of Adam and his ridiculous outburst. Then there's the third set of DNA, and I still have to smooth everything out with Peters before the trial. Christ, I don't even have my defense strategy laid out yet. But if anyone can do this, it's me. I mean, it has to be me. I drive to the office. I'm not even sure if both Bob and Anne will show up today, but knowing them, the odds are pretty good. Anne will want to spend the entire day groveling at my feet until I forgive her. Bob will not want to appear broken or defeated in any way to his subordinates at the firm. I'm sure I'll be reprimanded by Kent at some point. Lucky for me, Kent was out of the office yesterday, but the news will get to him quickly. Not 30 seconds after I enter my office, I hear a faint knock on my doorframe. Anne is peeking into my office, the lower half of her torso still out of view in case she needs to make a quick dash to escape my wrath. "May I come in, Sarah?" she asks sheepishly with a heavy vibrato in her voice. This is the hyena approaching the downed wildebeest while the lion is still eating. Maybe the lion will share? Or maybe it will decide to have 2 meals this morning. "Yes, Anne, you may," I say, taking a deadpan and emotionless tone to convey my reserved and cautionary judgment of her as a person. "Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry again. I'm sorry for not telling you about Adam and Kelly. I'm sorry for breaking your trust. I'm just sorry, and I understand if you want me to leave. I can have my desk emptied by end of day." I say nothing. I let her sweat. She bows her head and begins to back out of my office, fully defeated. "Anne, stop," I call to her. She lifts her head, and I see hope in her eyes. I should let her go. I should let her quit all by herself. It'll save the firm money. It'll save me the headache. But I know she meant well. I know, at the end of the day, she is loyal to me. And whether I like it or not, I still need her. I don't have time to find another assistant in the middle of this trial. "Is Bob in the office this morning?" "Yes, he is. Would you like me to call for him?" "No, not yet, Anne. But in the meantime, please set up a meeting with C.A. Peters for later this afternoon. Anne smiles at me and nods and turns to walk out the door. And Anne, I add. Yes, Sarah? She asks with all the anticipatory excitement of a puppy waiting for a command. From this point on until I'm ready, you are just my assistant. I let the words hang heavy as I swivel my chair away from her. Yes, Mrs. Morgan, she murmurs as she leaves my office. My phone buzzes and I pick it up. A text from Eleanor. We still have to work together for my son, but I'm not keen on seeing you anytime soon. Your words were vile, and I apologize for allowing them to get the best of me. I toss the phone on the desk without a response.
54. Adam Morgan. My feet are absolutely killing me. Last night after I left the station, I just started walking, knowing I would have to get as far away as I could. Putting a significant distance between myself and the station would be important, but so would getting out of my orange jumpsuit and finding some shelter, all while avoiding main roadways. A few hours into my escape, it began to rain. Of course it started to rain. I had underestimated how far out in the middle of nowhere the station truly was, and after what felt like at least 5 miles of walking, I still had yet to run into a house or store or any car I felt comfortable enough to flag down. I then remembered that Rebecca had said she lived locally. I mean, she did write for the county paper after all. I thought that if I could just find a map, I might be able to figure out where the hell I am. As the pitch black of a starless and rainy night settled into its darkest point, I realized that as there were no street lamps, I had no real idea where I was going. I moved deeper into the woods from the edge of the road to try to find some form of shelter. This proved to be quite the task, with visibility no farther than 3 feet in front of me. After a good 15 minutes of walking in what I'm sure was a big circle, I came to a partially downed tree that had caught between the massive trunks of 2 other trees. It looked relatively stable and gave some shelter from the rain, so I decided to set up camp underneath it. I had no illusions about finding some big leaves or branches to improve my structure. I'm not fucking Bear Grylls after all. Sitting under the downed tree, I couldn't help but think it was just waiting until I fell asleep to finally surrender to gravity and add me to the ground as another decaying piece of fertilizer. I supposed that wouldn't be the worst end for me. The CA would undoubtedly applaud it. I could picture the press conference. Yes, it is true, Mr. Morgan escaped custody the other evening. However, he did not get far, and in the end, nature decided to exact the justice that the state had already been seeking. A great cold began to creep through me. I tried to scoop mud and dirt into barrier walls along my sides to keep the water out, but this proved futile, and I eventually gave up. Shaking and all alone, I was left with nothing to do but contemplate how I got into this position. Some elements are obvious. Yes, I was cheating on my wife in our own marital bed, so I guess there's all the good shit that comes with that. But no, this is something more. Lots of people cheat on their spouse. Well, some people cheat on their spouse. But I would imagine the more common end to those trysts is divorce, not murder. Whoever did this must have known us both, and very well at that. They knew about the lake house. They knew I spent large chunks of time there without any additional visitors. They knew Kelly came to see me and often spent the night. They knew how to get in, how not to make a noise where we would be. They knew practically everything. This person must have been patient, calculating, and very sure of themselves. This was no quick plan. This took time. Scott would have the training and knowledge to cover this all up. It's his job, for Christ's sake. I mean, I can picture him now. Almost a limitless amount of time to patrol the area, scout her work, my house, and here I am helping him. But is it that simple? The scorned husband? How does the Bob connection fit in then? And Anne knew about us? And they worked together? That can't just be coincidence, right? I'm trying to connect the dots on how it could be possible for all 3 of them to be in this together. Maybe Anne was the one who told Deputy Summers in the first place. Yes, that makes sense. She might have wanted Deputy Summers to be the one that confronted Kelly, since Anne couldn't seem to tell Sarah or face me herself, but she probably didn't anticipate Scott's response. But what about Bob? He would have wanted Kelly dead more than anyone. I mean, she killed his brother. The numbness that had been holding me let loose for a second, and I began to realize the number of insects accumulating on my hands and legs. My first reaction was to flail and remove them all, but then I remembered where I was. This was their home, not mine. They were seeking warmth and shelter the same as me, so how could I blame them? I wanted to be one of them. Every morning I would have a purpose, trekking into the woods, searching for building material and food to bring back to the colony. I would have friends, a team, a clear sense of direction. Aunt Adam would be born anew. At night I could rest knowing I put in an honest day's work, fill my belly, occasionally plant my seed in the queen. Really not much different than my own life, just not aimless and finally fair. I wake, completely soaked and colder than I have ever been. My muscles do not want to respond. They are frozen in stasis, hoping warmth will come to them. My brain assures them that that will not be the case, and finally they release. I head in what I think is the direction of the road. My guess turns out to be correct, as I hadn't walked as deep into the woods as I thought I had. As I continue to tread, I notice that my hands are caked in dried mud. The patina begins to crack and shed itself into a slow falling helix of flakes. My own dirty Hansel and Gretel trail, I think. Then I look back and realize that dirt falling into dirt leaves no trail. From time to time I flinch as a large drop of water, having pooled in the leaves high above, catches the back of my neck. This subtle reminder doesn't let me forget how weak and cold and alone I am. I look up into the canopy to search for some sort of illumination and warmth, but this is blocked by the very leaves that are crying upon me. They deny me any such respite, but continue to point their arms away, encouraging me to do no more than leave them alone. After the most lonely and miserable walk I have ever taken, I begin to hear a steadier roar of traffic. Instead of one car every 20 minutes, I hear one every few minutes. I must be close to something, and my body is screaming for me to run out into the road and cry for help. But I also must still be cautious. I am on the run, and still in my jail garb. I continue walking and soon realize I am near the intersection of two highways, and all the standard establishments that accompany such a splendor of human convergence. A gas station, a truck rest stop, and a handful of fast food spots. I assess my appearance and decide that the truck rest stop is my best bet. If I get lucky, maybe one of the truckers will have left their cab unlocked. I can pop in, borrow some clothes, sneak into the rest area and take a quick shower. Then I could move freely about the area. During a brief pause in the traffic, I cross the parking area of the truck stop. I am trying to sneak as best as I can, but it is broad daylight, and I must look like a miniature Sasquatch. I check the first truck after scanning for any onlookers and try the door. Locked. I move to the next vehicle and the next with no success. Finally, on my fourth go, I find the door locked, but the window wide open. I reach in and lift the lock from its resting place and let myself in. I quickly climb past the two front seats toward the back bench. At first, I am surprised that I'm only catching the smallest whiffs of cigarettes, stale sweat, urine, and pork rinds before realizing that the magical scent masker is none other than myself. I find a small duffel bag under the bench and reach inside. I pull out some underwear, a pair of jeans, and a green checkered flannel shirt. "That'll do," I whispered to myself. I hop down from the cab and close the door quietly and relock it. I then turn toward the rest stop bathrooms, but am frozen in my tracks as I see two men walking in my direction. They are smoking cigarettes and chatting and haven't noticed me yet, but it is only a matter of time. There's a gravel ring at the edge of the parking lot that gives way to a field of tall cattails and wheatgrass, the darker wood set farther in the skyline behind it. When I look back, I am met with squinting eyes and the slow but steady walk of someone who is approaching with caution, shoulders slouched down, head cocked forward. "Hey," one of them yells. "What are you doing?" the other shouts. I panic. I have no answers for them that will suffice, especially not with my appearance. I do the one thing I can and run toward the field. "Hey, motherfucker, we're talking to you," the first trucker yells as they begin to pursue me. They continue yelling as they chase me, but my mind is a blur of panic, and I only catch bits and pieces. "Cocksucker, stop! I'll kill you!" I hit the tall grass but don't stop. With my hands holding on to the stolen clothing, I can't protect my face, and the stalks scratch and cut my cheeks as I run. The constant battering makes my eyes water and swell closed. I don't stop running until I am deep into the woods again, and I can no longer hear the voices behind me. As I change out of my prison garb and into the confiscated trucker getup, another drop of water strikes my bare back and sends shivers up my spine. I look up and watch as the branches dance in a slight breeze that rolls through, waving at me, taunting me, the arms pointing out once again to leave the way I came. "Yeah, I don't want to be here either," I say, looking skyward. New clothing fully in place, I go back to the rest area to see if the truckers have gone. I still need to find a map or get to a phone, but for that, I might have to wait till night.
55. Sarah Morgan. I arrived early at the small cafe CA Josh Peters agreed to meet me at. Usually, I'd arrive a few minutes late to show that my time is more important than his. Not this time, though. It is I that needs the favor. Things were going smoothly until Adam screwed everything up by coming to my office and attacking Bob and Anne. I had Josh wrapped around my finger. He was about to do my job for me, find out who that third set of DNA belonged to. Now I'm left with more work, and I've lost the upper hand. I tap my fingers on the square wooden cafe table. The hum of those around me, the whirring of a coffee machine, and the clanking of dishes are a nice break from the noise and worry that has filled my head since before the case started. I swirl the straw around my peach mango smoothie. I couldn't eat solid foods now if I tried. My stomach is in knots. My anxiety is at an all-time high. My patience has worn thin. I spot C.A. Peters as he enters. He doesn't look around for me and instead walks to the counter to order. He's late. He knows it, but he doesn't care. He knows he's at an advantage. We're days away from the start of the trial, and I've never been more unprepared for a case in my life. I blame Adam and his antics for throwing me off. I blame Anne and her lies. Maybe I shouldn't have taken this on. I'm the best when it comes to criminal defense, but maybe I'm not the best for this case. I thought I could help Adam. As Peters finishes flashing his perfectly symmetrical grin at the cashier, he spots me sitting off to the side. His smile partially disappears, but there's still enough of it there for me. Enough, I think, to sway him into helping me. At least, I hope. He gestures to the menu, asking if I want anything. I shake my head and hold up the smoothie. He nods, takes his receipt, and joins me at my table. "Mrs. Morgan, to what do I owe the pleasure?" He unbuttons his suit coat. I pause before speaking as I can't sound too eager. Casual is the name of the game. I sip my smoothie. "Just wanted to see if you were ready for court." He gives me a quizzical look. He's not buying it. "I've been ready, but that's not really why we're here, is it, Sarah?" He raises an eyebrow. I lean back in my chair. A waitress interrupts us, setting down a basket of chips with a sandwich and a black coffee in front of Josh. Her cheeks flush as she smiles at him. I can tell he has that effect on ladies, and why wouldn't he? He's a good-looking man. Maybe that's the angle to play here. He tells her thank you. The waitress lingers for a moment, then steps away, not before looking back at him twice. "Are you sure you don't want anything?" He gestures to his food. "Oh, there's plenty of things I want." I deliver this in my most flirtatious voice. Either he doesn't pick up on my signal or he ignores it. In between bites, he warns me. "When I'm finished with this, I'm finished with this conversation, so you might want to spit it out." I let out a huff. "Fine, what do you know about the third set of DNA?" "Nothing. And that doesn't bother you?" "I don't need that third set of DNA for a conviction," he says matter-of-factly. But you need it," he interrupts. "Maybe I don't. You know as well as I do, a jury will look at the third set of unknown DNA as circumstantial. I mean, it's one of 3. The victim slept around, that much is true. If you knew who it was, you could build the case around it. Prove reasonable doubt. Prove that other person had more motive than Adam. I know how this works, Sarah. You're between a rock and a hard place. You might want to start coming to terms with the fact that you're not winning this case. He says coldly, "There's always Scott." "There is." He doesn't let anything else on. "Think he did it?" I ask. "Who?" "Scott." Honestly, I don't know who did it. Scott, Adam, that unknown DNA. All I know is Adam is a slam dunk. And you wouldn't care that you're potentially putting away an innocent man? That's for the jury to decide. He wipes his face with a napkin, stands, and buttons his suit coat. What about the connection between Bob and the victim? What do you make of that? I ask. Circumstantial. Then the whole case is circumstantial, I say through gritted teeth. The dead body found in your husband's, or should I say the bed you shared with your husband, negates that. See you in court, Sarah. He holds his head high and walks out of the cafe. What a smug prick. That didn't go as I had planned. I was hoping to get more out of Josh. I don't think he knows who that third set of DNA belongs to, and even if he did, he wouldn't include it in discovery. It would only help me. I pull out a pad of paper and scribble down a list of names. All the men I can think of that had any contact with Kelly. All the men that could have slept with her. I take a picture of it with my phone and then crumple it up and put it in my pocket. This would typically be something I would ask Anne to do, but I can't trust her. At least, not yet. I leave the cafe and dial Matthew. He answers on the first ring. Hello, darling. Hi, Matthew. I need a favor. Anything. It's not exactly legal, I say quietly as I walk among strangers down the sidewalk. Ooh, now you're starting to sound like one of my clients. His voice is determined yet light and airy, something only Matthew can achieve. But still anything. I'm going to text you a list of names. I need you to get a DNA sample from each of those men. Hair, saliva, skin, I don't care how you get it, I just need you to get it. Getting DNA from men, my specialty. He chuckles. Then have them all sent to the lab and run against the unknown DNA found inside Kelly. I've already added you as co-counsel, so you shouldn't have any issues. I hold the phone tightly to my ear and whisper, make sure you're discreet and make it quick. Sarah, you know these won't be admissible in court. His tone becomes serious. I'll make them admissible. Seriously, what are you doing? Again, he's questioning me. I should have asked Anne to take care of this, but I can't trust her, and I'm not sure I can trust Matthew either. I just need to know. But this isn't the way, he pleads. Damn it, Matthew, are you going to help me or not? You know I am. I just hope you know what you're doing. I do. Talk soon. I end the call just as I reach Williamson and Morgan law offices.
56. Adam Morgan. Getting back into the rest area at night proved to be much easier. I camped out for a while, making sure the excitement from earlier had died down. The truckers were gone, and no cops ever showed up. I can only guess that the truckers had their own reasons for not wanting the authorities involved for what amounted to probably less than $40 of stolen clothing. I eventually was able to shower at the rest stop, snag some leftovers from the back trash dumpster. Gross, I know, but the trucker's jeans didn't come with a magic wallet full of cash in the back pocket. The clerk looks up from his smartphone for a brief second just to acknowledge my presence with a head nod, and then returns to his mindless entertainment. I head to the restrooms, hoping for a payphone, but knowing that would be a rare find these days. Sure enough, there isn't one. I head toward the wall rack that contains local pamphlets, postcards, calendars with loons on them, but most importantly, road maps. I pull one out of its slot and find where I am, and then try to recall where Rebecca had said she lives. I use the lake house as a marker point and trace my way to her. Finally, a bit of luck. She's less than 3 miles from where I am, not far off the highway. I slip the map into my waistband and pull my shirt over it. I don't want to steal from this guy, but I don't really have a choice. Besides phoneless escaped convicts and maybe the elderly, who the hell needs paper maps anyway? I decide that a call to Rebecca with a heads up of my arrival might be wise. Best case scenario, she comes and picks me up and saves me an hour of walking. I go to the clerk, and he says without looking up, "Can I help you?" "Yeah. I lost my phone and really need to make a call right about now. Can I borrow yours for a second?" $5, the clerk responds, still staring at his screen. "What? $5? You want to use my phone and it'll cost you $5. But I don't have any money on me." "Then no phone," he replies. "If you have no phone and no money, then what are you doing in here anyway?" "Well, I'm a bit lost, and I was hoping you might have a payphone." A smile begins to grow across his face, and he starts to laugh. "A payphone? Dude, where did you walk in from, 1997? I just stand there, not sure what my next move is. But when he stops laughing, he presses the home button on his phone, clicks on the call app, and hands it to me. "I haven't laughed like that in a while. Make it quick and don't wander off," he says, a slight shine of tears cascading down his cheeks. "Thanks." I try to remember Rebecca's number from memory. After 4 rings, the call goes to voicemail. The positive, though, is that the recording is in fact Rebecca's voice, so I remembered correctly. I skip the voicemail and try her one more time. Again, no answer. I type in another number, glancing back at the clerk as the phone rings. He's busy reading a magazine. "Hello?" I press the phone firmly to my ear. "Daniel, it's Adam." "Adam, my boy, the auction's still going strong. Ends next week and we got a lot of nice offers. Wait, I heard you were in prison again. Something about bail jumping. This book is going to be spicy," he says. "I've escaped." "Oh, shit, you can't be calling me." "I need your help." "Adam, I can't help you. I'd be an accessory. Just take some good notes for your book." He ends the call abruptly. I dial another number, and she picks up on the first ring. "Mom, I've escaped." "Oh, heavens. Where are you?" There's panic in her voice. "It doesn't matter. I'm going to meet you at your hotel later tonight. I need cash." "Of course, sweetheart. You don't belong in that prison anyway. Just don't tell Sarah." "I have no interest in speaking to Sarah, and I have half the nerve to slap her again." "Again? Mom, you didn't." "Hey, what's taking so long there, bud?" the clerk asks. I have to go. I end the call, delete the call log, and click the screen off. "Sorry. Thanks for your help." "Girl won't answer Mr. Payphone?" There's a smile on his face. "Something like that." Outside, I begin my journey, keeping the highway near my line of sight for reference. After a few hours, I arrive at what I'm pretty sure is Rebecca's neighborhood. Without a phone, though, I can't call and ask for an address. I decide to try to spot her car in the driveway, crossing my fingers that she doesn't keep it in a garage. It would appear Lady Luck has finally borne her head to me. I spot Rebecca's Chevy Cruze in the driveway of a ranch-style home. The police must have returned it to her rather quickly after I technically stole it. I hope this is real, and hysteria and delusion haven't set in yet. I stumble to her home and knock on the door with such fervor. I should be all over the news by now, but knowing Sheriff Stevens, he'll attempt to keep it hush-hush until he finds me. I've seen numerous signs in front yards on this hellish journey that say, "Vote for Sheriff Stevens." It appears he's up for re-election, and the last thing he would want right now is the county thinking he let a killer escape from under his nose. Rebecca pulls open the door with frustration. I hadn't realized I'd been pounding on it for nearly a minute. She has a towel wrapped around her body, and her hair is drenched. Her eyes widen when she sees me. "What the hell are you doing here?" She glances around and pulls me inside. "I need your help." She closes the door and locks it, peering out the side panel window once more. She's skittish, even more than I am. She's scared. I can see it in her eyes, in her demeanor, in the goosebumps on her freckled skin. "You can't be here." "I know, but you're my last hope," I plead. "Did you tell anyone about me?" "No." "Well, yes." She rubs her arm. She fidgets. Her face flushes. "What the hell, Adam?" "Sorry, I panicked." "Who?" "Kelly's husband, Scott." I hang my head. "When?" "A day ago." "Someone's been watching me. Been following me." She paces. "How do you know?" "They were in my house, and I keep getting these phone calls." "I'll help you." I try to pull in for a hug. She shrugs me off and pushes me back. Tears fall from her eyes. "You can't even help yourself," she yells. "I'll fix this. I should have never gotten involved. I have to leave. I have to disappear. It's fine." I grab her wrists. She tries to wiggle away. I don't let her. I pull her in and hug her tightly. She stops resisting. "We'll go to the police together. We'll tell them everything you found. I won't let anything happen to you." I look her in the eyes, trying to reassure her. Leaning in, I kiss her. It's a kiss of comfort. At least I think it is. At least I hope she knows it is. I kiss her again and again until she stops crying. When she's calmed down, I think that I have helped until a flash of anger spreads across her face. She pushes me hard. I stumble back and catch myself before I fall to the ground. "Get out! You have to leave! Please, Rebecca, let me help you. You can't help me! Get out of my house!" It's not anger on her face. It's fear. She's scared, and I don't know if it's me she's afraid of or someone else. She's right. I can't help her. I can't even help myself. Before I can even make it to the front door, I see the strobing of red and blue lights across the front window. "Did you call the police? I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you." Tears stream down her face. "Who did you think?" But I'm cut off as a loud pounding starts at the door. "Police department! All parties come out of the house with your hands up!" I open the front door slowly, one hand in the air while the other turns the knob. Before I can raise my other hand, I am seized by the shirt collar and thrown to the ground outside. A knee is pressed into the small of my back, and a thick pair of hands grabs my wrists and places me in handcuffs. As I'm pulled to my feet and dragged to the squad car, my eyes catch the faint glimpse of a shadow moving in the bushes behind Rebecca's house. I look away before it registers in my mind, and I snap back to see it again, but it's gone. With the lights flashing in my eyes and no water for 2 days, I can only guess the things I might be seeing. I surrender without a fight and take my place in the back seat, ready for my ride back to the station.